And it's really recording this time.
And we are live. You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect, where me and Nathan are currently watching network television because me and Nathan do not watch network television. We are currently watching 2000. I just never have this up. It's up, but it's like not in my way. 2013's season 1 of the Blacklist. We have season 2 of The Mentalist, was 2009, and we have season 2 of Miami Vice, which came out in 1985. And as always, we start with The Mentalist. We have season 1, episode 7, Frederick Barnes, number 47. Original
We're
date.
starting with the Blacklist.
Huh? Oh, did I say something? Did I say Mentalist? Ah.
Yeah. That's okay.
You know what it is? They both end in list.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. Not hard to confuse.
Yeah, we start with the Blacklist, as always. Episode 1, or season 1, episode 7. Frederick Barnes, number 47. Original air date number November 4th, 2013, NBC Monday. Red leads Liz in the search for a deranged chemical weapons expert who unleashed a rare but fatal disease in Washington, D.C. subway. Showrunner John Bokenkamp, written by J.R. Orsi, and directed by Michael W. Watkins.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my good. Okay.
Yeah, this episode was mostly BS.
Oh, wait, mean?
Yeah, it was just like, let's throw scary stuff in. Like, this guy's an expert in weapons, all kinds of, any kind of chemical, biological. This is the ultimate man for weapons.
Yeah.
And he's using radioactive isotopes from nuclear reactors, and he's making a genetic disease into an airborne contagion, and he's using nuclear material to break down your immune system, and it kills you in 30 seconds. It's like, oh, you're just throwing a bunch of scary in the box.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, oh, okay.
Well, I thought the premise was neat. It was as for like what he's doing it for and how he does it, like,
yeah,
well, I need a control group. It's like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And otherwise, yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of like subway gassings and stuff like that through the years. So this is just like somebody put that on a board. Like, we need one of these episodes. And then I think it's 2 episodes in a row they've had strontium 90 just be a part of something, just because it gives off radiation.
Scary.
Yeah,
it's scary. I mean, you wouldn't want to be around it. You know, it's bad stuff, but it's like, it doesn't seem like, I don't know. It just seemed like they created a scary box. Now, the reason this guy that was doing it and what he was trying to do was a departure. It wasn't just greed and evil. Well, it was evil. It wasn't greed.
No, like, he got his money. Although it's like, at the end of the day, it's kind of weird. It's like, wait, why is he on the blacklist? Like, I know it's because he
disappeared.
Well,
he has all this expertise in weapons.
Yeah, and he's selling it to people, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like he's being as evil as everybody else on his blacklist thing.
Well, yeah.
Because he doesn't necessarily have a body count behind him, but there's just a potential body count behind him until he starts doing things himself. But like, we're not onto him because of his normal operation. We're onto him because of his abnormal operation in this episode. So, but you know, they have a naming scheme, so it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, it works. It just, for me, it was like this. Sometimes I don't like the scary box.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, I understood why they had to do it, but it seemed like, well, we didn't need. We could have found some other way besides tracing the illegal sale of nuclear isotopes.
Well, I mean, they already blew up a train in like the second episode, so it's like, we gotta have a different train disaster. So it's like, oh, chemicals on the subway.
This kind of threw me back to Fringe, because like all those people's veins started appearing around their eyes. It's like, are they going to dissolve or so? What is this? What is this?
Yeah.
You know? Then you find out what it is, and it's like, well, those people just suffocated to death, essentially.
Like, I also like that, like, as the horror grows, for some reason, just all the lights start flickering.
Yeah.
the train's vibing with the people.
Yeah, the psychic horror that's being unleashed is creating a low-level EMP effect. And it's making making the lights flicker because human death interferes with because we use electrical current in our brain. It's yeah, you could just make it up. Spin the wheel. It all works.
Yeah, we start a train. There's a guy. He puts a briefcase on her seat. And a lady like makes small talk with him. He's like, "Oh, did you get your hat there?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, I walked by there." It's like, by the way, this is a conversation almost no one would ever have.
Yeah.
Why would she take notice of that hat walking by? I mean, I don't know. I guess the thing is like, oh yeah, me and my dad still talk. We go to church together.
And it leads to a foreboding comment. Is what makes it like scary. Oh, I looked it up. That's like a $400 hat too. It's
okay.
So yeah, someone might notice a $400.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, maybe. All right. Never mind. I don't know. I just feel like people. I don't know. I'm not in the subway, but I feel like, and maybe this is just like how I feel like New York trains are, where it's just like don't talk to anybody. But it's like every time you see like a YouTube video, it's just somebody talking on a train and doing weird stuff. So it's like, I'm not sure how much that is unusual, but it is New York. But here it's DC, but I don't know.
Yeah.
This is all just supposed to build up guilt because this is Frederick Barnes and he's leaving this deadly gas in the train, and then she's like knocking on the door like, "Hey, you forgot your suitcase," and then he just kind of like stares at her and walks away, and then she kind of like, "Oh no, what's this?" and then like puffs out some gas, and then everybody starts dying within seconds. And
yeah, it was weird.
But yeah, they had like blue lines that start like forming in their face, and then it starts happening across the train. It's like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
Which they explain it being like her body being deprived of
the arteries.
Yeah, deprived of oxygen. I could not. Later on they call it Kerr's disease, which I tried to look it up and I could not find a thing.
No, I found something called Kerr's affective disorder, but it was like a neurological thing.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was spelled differently because it was like curse. It looked like.
Oh.
It seems to be with a K. So yeah, they just again the whole thing's it's a scary box.
Yeah.
And I don't expect like research. I'm watching a TV show, not Frontline. So
well, in the other episodes when we bother to look something up, it's like, hey, it's based on a real thing.
Yeah, it did make me curious.
Then we cut to our credits. We cut to Liz and Tom are picking out colors for the room for the kitchen.
They had a great color name in this.
Oh, what was it, like Grandma's Pumpkins or something?
Yeah, and they both started laughing. I was like, I could see that.
I haven't done remodeling, so that I speak to you. Is there a bunch of dumb color names like that?
Oh yeah. There's some fun. I mean, we found some funny. Like, I'm trying to think of what one, but it was like it was like plum pink, or something, and it's like, oh yeah, let's just put every like sex reference organ into one paint color. And, I've done a lot of color swatches over the years.
Get your banana and donuts coloring scheme.
Yeah. Or they'll have a French word that looks like testicles, and it's kind of like a gray brown, but it's something in French. It's like that looks like it's called testicles. Yeah, we're gonna go with the testicles in the living room. Kind of have that run into the pubis for the kitchen. We're gonna do like a border wall here. Yeah,
And then I wrote down a guess, like, is the remodeling going to reveal the surveillance in their house? But it did not this episode, but we'll see.
Not yet. They just got it taped up now. So.
Liz goes to the what do they call it? The post office? Yeah, I think that's what it's all right. Because I haven't heard them name check in a while. That's where we go.
It's just a retired post office building. That's what they call it.
I know, but I think they only name checked it like the first 2 episodes, and then they haven't again.
Probably not. Yeah,
so I have
the FBI, CIA / secret government agency headquarters. Because ostensibly these people are the FBI, but they act like the CIA. And the lady who does their interrogations that's the CIA is a little Indian woman that will grab your nerves and twist them. Like, oh, well, that's the CIA. We don't get our hands dirty with that.
So, like, Red's there, or Red calls Liz through, like, the tip line. Because in the last episode, she didn't want to talk to him anymore. I think I think I forget, like I think like wrestler tells them turn on the TV, and this is where I learned about the
Subway gassing.
Subway, and then they get a backstory. It's Frederick Barnes became expert on biological weapons. He worked for DARPA, or what do they call it, like Art DARPA or something like that, or ARCSPA, like or something like that.
Yeah, he worked on the Dark Haven program. It's like, oh, what do they do there? Make songs for children? Yeah. It's right next to the Death's Head. Like, I love the name schemes of these TV shows. Like the government they'd call it like Blue Pastures or something. They don't give names that like represent. But yeah, DARPA's a real thing. So
yeah. Which I learned out from Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, I always remember that. I forget who made the tweet, or it's probably stolen from a bunch of other people. But there's a fun tweet out there about like somebody's like some author writes a dystopian future and calls the book the Torment, never create the Torment Nexus, and then some tech company's like, we finally done it. We created the Torment Nexus. It's like, you've obviously missed the point of the book.
Yeah, it's like, it was a challenge. He threw down the glove and we picked it up. And now you can have virtual copies of celebrities to torture in virtuality forever.
But yeah, so you get a background on Frederick Barnes, and there's the whole mystery is why he wants to kill people and why he'd bother to kill them himself. And it's like, what's going on here? What's the play? Like, is he just trying to, it's like, hey, check out my product, but like, why would he put himself in the open like that? And they
start releasing bioweapons outside of Washington D.C. That won't get any attention.
Yeah, when there's clearly cameras around that you're just looking straight into, but still nobody can find you. This is talking about the Kurz virus, and it's like mixed with strontium-90 to make it more like deadly, because like you said, it just like break down the immune system for like a bit or something.
Or something, yeah.
Or does it like somehow cultivate the virus better? I don't know.
They never explain, because like I said, it was basically a disease that happens, and this is like, it's basically a hereditary disease. If two people with the wrong markers get together and have a child, it will have this problem.
Yeah.
But this guy weaponized it into a contagion through techniques. And
but anyways, the strontium-90 is important because it ends up, because Red is like on the case, and he's going to meet with like, there's like 4 people in the world can get strontium-90 from. I bet he got it from this guy. So they go to Cuba to get it from the guy.
Yeah, weird Cuban sub scene where it's the guy. Who's the guy in Cuba?
I remember him from Oz, but I can't remember his name. It's like this character's name is Manny Soto. But yeah, it's a guy that's been in like hundreds of things.
Yeah, I recognized him right away. David Zayas, but I just know him from different shows.
Yeah, I wrote down like Red goes like, there's only one guy I know that could get it, and I was like, is it just Red? Is he gonna like go to Cuba and just like talk to himself in a room?
Yeah.
And like on his way to go to Havana, he's talking to Lou, his assistant, and like she's like talking about some property. And it's like, oh, we're gonna buy the house. It's like, oh, good. And then Liz and Wrestler interview Barnes's old research partner, Forrester. Her son has Kurz disease, and the kid's a bastard because like all they did was work all the time. So they had an affair with. She had an affair with Frederick
Barnes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean the kid is ill-tempered or anything. He's literally a bastard child.
Well, I guess a bastard just means out of wedlock. So.
Yeah, I know. Some people nowadays don't know what you're talking about. I always point it out, though. It's like, your child's a bastard. Like, Nathan, just leave the room, please. I'm just trying to point these things out.
Well, I mean, I guess she was married, so it's not technically a bastard. What would that be?
She wasn't married to the guy she had it with, though.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, so we should basically figure out Barnes weaponized a rare disease so we could get more research and funding for a cure, because because it's so rare. There's just no research for it.
There's like 4 people in the world that have it or something.
Yeah.
It's not big money in pharma for curing that.
Which I think that's an interesting twist. It's like, okay, so this guy is very talented, and he's going to use his talent to do something horrible to save one person that he like sort of
Kill
just
like 58 people.
yeah. Yeah, and it's like, does he really care about the kid? He's not like taking care of him or anything. He's like clearly out of the kid's life. The kid doesn't even know, but first in the back of his mind, it's important.
Yeah.
Which I guess that just implies a deeper sadness to this character, because we just don't really get a backstory on him other than
No.
he threw his life away for his work, and then now he doesn't even care about his work anymore.
Yeah.
Um.
Or does he? You know, it's like
Yeah. Red meets with Manny Soto. That's the strontium dealer in Cuba. He gets a bunch of donuts and stuff out of some bakery. And then Red leaves a tracker in the room, but it's just a circle with a blinky dot on it. But it can apparently do everything. Just pick up all electronic wavelengths and decode them and everything, and run a trace.
And do a global trace on the cell phone. It's like, cool.
I'm fine with that. It's just a funny thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you put the tracker in there, or at least a listening device, and it's like, why is it blinking? It's like, well, for the audience. I was like, okay, whatever.
That just propels the story along.
Yeah. We obviously know there's a tracking device. Although, I mean, I remember when Liz put like the tracking device that looks like a nicotine patch on the door. At least that's clear and kind of like it's disguisable. Here it's a bright blinking red light in like a darkened room. Nobody's ever gonna find that.
Yeah. Red seems to burn a lot of bridges, but he always finds new people. Like no one ever points out, hey, the last person he did business with, they're dead or in federal prison. It's like, no, can't wait to do business.
There are like 2 people in the win that we don't get like their conclusion, and like, so maybe he's like, keeping up his appearances, like, hey, look, they're in super big trouble and they're not dead and they're still doing their thing. They just have a new identity. So
yeah, that could be.
But we haven't caught up on that stuff yet. So
no, not yet.
No, every episode we got to add like 8 new mysteries to maybe solve. Then Barnes goes to jury duty and leaves the case in the jury duty thing. The room is locked and everybody dies except for one person. And you have like Wrestler like trying to open the door. It's like, is he gonna get killed? But at least that they have the thing where he like takes like a gas mask from a fireman and like tells them to go away. So he puts that on, and there's like one lady that survives.
Yeah. Because he secures the door with a zip tie.
Yeah, nobody can break those.
Yeah, no one can break those. Like those firemen are there. Well, you probably wouldn't want to break those because then you'd just walk into the room and get killed.
Yeah.
I don't know how he got a suitcase with a bioweapon in it. Last time I went to court, you couldn't bring a mechanical pencil in. It was a weapon, but they're probably like, well, no sharp objects in here, just vials and chemicals. Yeah, you're good to go. But
I don't know. Was your my jury pool was just like it's sort of like a basement area with just office chairs set up, or not even office chair, just folding chair.
I was actually going into a courtroom the last time I was in court. I wasn't there for jury duty. It was part of my adventure life. So yeah.
Now the times I've done jury duty, it was just like in a just folding chairs set up in like kind of a basement area. Like I never actually went to the court. And here they just, I guess it's DC, so it makes sense. They just have, it's an older building with just lots of courtrooms, so they can just shove the people in there. So that kind of makes sense. I just never, I've only been in one jury duty pool and it didn't look like that, and that doesn't really mean anything. I'm just giving my experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, here's kind of a clever thing where it's like why the Barnes chose like a subway and a jury duty pool is that it's already like random selection, and so he'll get to test the virus on a wide swath of people to see if anybody's immune to it. And so this one lady
said multiple genders and ethnicities,
Mm.
And yeah, you can test it on the widest group because he was just if he was doing it at a Klan rally, he probably wouldn't get the results he wanted.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think anyone would too vigorously investigated it. Oh, well, these guys are all dead. That's weird. Must have drank moonshine. Case closed.
It's like, oh no, somebody used biological weapons on the Klan. Whoops.
Well, we're gonna check this out.
I mean, you'd have to. If someone has biological weapons, you got to look into it. But
Yeah, I mean that could that's a knife that cuts two ways. But
Yeah.
it doesn't- I was just making a humorous quip about
yeah,
it.
yeah. But yeah, so I thought that was like a clever thing where it's like, okay, these targets are an interesting choice because of the random selection. It's like, yeah, he's a scientist
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
without ethics. Sometimes progress comes without ethics.
Yeah. I mean, we did a little experiment about 75 years ago in the desert. And,
Oh yeah, and then like, okay, yeah, this for like Liz like ends up chasing Barnes down. And he like Barnes, who is just a scientist, but now he's an action guy, and he like gets the gun off a security guy and holds him hostage. And apparently there's just no other security guys, and so it's just standoff between him and Liz ends up tossing her gun to save the security guy. And then she immediately gets like reprimanded for it. It's like, yeah, you're not supposed to throw your gun away and stuff like that. And I don't know those protocols, but I imagine like, yeah, it's probably true.
for the dramatic purpose of the story, it made sense
Yeah.
because in real life, oh, the guy that's setting off a bioweapon, and I'm just going to shoot through the security guard to kill this guy because this is a danger to thousands,
Yeah.
tens of thousands of people. But it propels the story along.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, that's just a common thing, and it's a trope. So,
Yeah.
which I like. I actually think some of the Blacklist subverts some of those tropes, but here it's just a trope.
Yeah.
Because I remember the last time, like the last episode, like what would be a trope is like now there's this secret between Liz and Tom, and like are the secret's out between Liz and Tom, but are they going to share it with the FBI? And most shows would be like, no, it's going to be the dilemma of the entire season. But they're like, no, let's go to the FBI and check this out.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. But yeah, she gets reprimanded. Wrestler turns her in, and he's like, no hard feelings, but yeah, that sucked. Don't do that.
You need to empty your Glock into a crowded city like I do. When I'm chasing someone in New York City, I'm just like changing magazines. I don't care what happens with the bullets or where they go. That's how you do it, damn it.
Be more like Wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, then Barnes shows up to like intercept the survivor at the hospital. He like does like a bone marrow like extraction.
Yeah.
Which that's a super hardcore thing.
Yeah, that's painful as hell.
Yeah. I mean he puts her under, so there's that. Although I think you're not actually supposed to be under for those for some reason.
I don't know. I know a guy who donated it at work.
Huh.
Because he was a genetic match for someone who had cancer in his bone marrow. And he did it once. He was like, yeah, that's all you can actually do because it takes a long time to build up. But he's like, I hurt everywhere forever.
Yeah, because I hear terrible things about like a bone marrow extraction, and I think it's like, why don't they put you out for that? And I think the reason it sucks so much is that no, they don't. It's just, and it's even though it's a local, it's like no, because like they got it was a bone, or was it like spinal something, spinal fluid? Anyways, I guess I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what bone marrow. Yeah. It's just sticking a needle in your bone, pulling some stuff out or something. I don't know. Anyways,
I know the guy that did it to help someone else who did live because they were a genetic match. But he said, because he was off work for like 6 weeks, and when he came back, he was on restricted duty. And I was like, "What'd you do?" And he goes, "I was bone marrow transplant. And it was 3 procedures. That's why I was gone so long." And I said, "What'd that feel like?" He goes, "Well, I've been in a motorcycle wreck before." And he goes, it felt worse than that it felt like someone had broke every bone in my body with a baseball bat, and then somehow they were whole but not. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, everything hurts. And he goes, it goes away eventually, but it's like your body is telling you, hey, don't do that. Whatever that was, we're not doing that again.
We had full penetration. Stop.
I knew a guy at work gave his half his liver to someone because they were a genetic match. And I was like, oh, that's weird. How does that feel? He goes, oh, I'm fine. He goes, he can never, like that other guy couldn't come back to work because of COVID, because when you get organ transplants, you take repressive stuff that represses because your body's trying to attack the liver that's keeping it alive. And you have no immune system. Like you can never ride the bus, take a taxi, or he could go to work, but that guy still has not been back at work because he'll get COVID and die because he's taking all these repressive drugs. Now the guy who donated, it's fine. It's like, yeah, there's some really nice people out there because I've never been asked for part of an organ or a kidney. And it's like, yeah, I don't think anyone would want my liver at this point.
Yeah, so Barnes shows up at the Fosters to give Ethan the cure. Ethan has no idea who this guy is, so he's just a scary man who just beats his mom.
Yeah. Punched her head off. No, come here, I'm trying to help.
I got this needle for you.
Big needle.
Yeah, you hate those blue veins on your arms? I'm going to take them away.
Tired of the kids messing with you? Calling you spider veins? Well, I got to beat up mom. Give you this shot. It may or may not kill you.
So this builds up another dramatic stand-up between Liz and Barnes, but this time he has a needle he's going to inject the kid with, who it might cure him, it might not. Yeah. And then this time she just shoots Barnes dead.
Yeah. And then Wrestler's like talking to her about it again on reflection. He's like, yeah, you did good. It's like, well, you're just a psychopath, Barnes. Like, killed someone. Good job. What if the kid dies? Well, that sucks, but you know.
Well, yeah, he poses the question. It's like saying maybe the kid doesn't have that much time. And she's like, well, that's the price we pay.
Yeah, she's like.
So yeah, it's weird. It's like it's like Wrestler's talking out of both sides of his mouth. It's weird.
Yeah, just trying to mess with her.
Yeah.
Or he's just secretly happy. It's like, yeah, another one, another killer.
I love doing gunning paperwork.
Now we're going to step up to the automatic weapons in a crowded metropolitan. Wrestler's not going to be happy until he gets to reenact Heat. He's just can't wait.
I can't wait till Red makes us rob a bank for some reason. We get to just unload in the middle of LA. An office building, so the reflection or the noise bouncing off is cacophonous.
Yeah. I want to fire one of those spin guns from like Predator or something to stop a terrorist who'd kill 500 people. Wrestlers watch Die Hard too many times. Find that out later.
And then we come to Red, who he like almost is like teary-eyed.
Yeah, it's a strange like emotional Red.
And I wrote down that
they bought.
No, this is like he's out there after they're taking Barnes away and putting the kid in the ambulance, and he's like he kind of teary-eyed and he's like, well, I guess because the coroner's here, he must have killed Barnes. She's like, yeah, and then I wrote down the dialogue. He says, well, she's like, why do you feel sympathy for him? He could have killed thousands of people. And he's like, say what you will about Frederick, but a man that is willing to burn the world down to protect one person they care about, that's a man I can understand.
Yeah. Okay. Of course you can.
Well, I mean, that's what we like, that's what we assume what's going on here is that like,
yeah,
that's his daughter or whatever.
Or something, yeah.
And like, she's really the only thing that's important to him for reasons, and he's doing all this stuff for her. He could never be the president of the United States to like put in a good word for her to be at the FBI, but if he was a criminal, the FBI couldn't turn away. He's really gonna step around. That's the best way a dad could advance his daughter through the world of FBI politics.
Yeah. That all
Put her
makes
on
sense.
put her on every red case they have, and it all gets solved.
Yeah, that always wraps up usually within 45 minutes.
um, yeah. So this, but it's important because this is based where because Liz at the end of the last episode was like, I don't want you anywhere near me, and so this time it's kind of a capitulation where it's like Liz accepts Red back in like the investigations, but like she doesn't want him in her personal life at all.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like, okay, we'll see if that happens. uh yeah, Wrestler and Liz have their little powwow where they're just like contemplating the results of killing a man. So yeah. And then Tom and Liz, we cut to Tom and Liz at their place and they reminisce about their first time in their place. And then we get to Red touring the house he bought. And yeah, he goes in there. He says, "It used to look bigger, so I thought usually that's something you say about your childhood home, but like no, this is apparently where he raised his family." He undoes some wood paneling and it has like the height chart, which is just always a thing in movies.
Yeah.
Like we never did a height chart, did we?
I don't remember that we did. We did here, but we.
But it's like
over.
it's like 100% in movies. People do height charts, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we did it with Grayson, but we just painted it over once he's like 5'8", and it's like, okay, that's all the taller you get. So.
And then he starts to like imagine like some, his daughter outside playing or whatever, and it gets like a much brighter thing, and then Lou was trying to like pretend like, yeah, it's a nice house, and he's like, no, it isn't. It used to be.
Yeah.
And then Dembe comes up from the basement. He's like, you said everything? He's like, yep. And they get out of there and they blow up the house.
Yeah.
And a very bad CGI explosion.
Yeah, no, another not so very special effect.
Like it seemed you could have done like for safety reasons. Yeah, if it's time, money, and safety, yeah, don't blow up a house. Okay, yeah. But you could have the whole dramatic something that's important to Red burning in the foreground as he turns and walks away.
Yeah, it would be better if they drove off and you could just see like through the blurry glass that the house was engulfed in flame. Like, that's a lot easier an effect to do because I know you can't blow up a house in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
Or at least unless it's like one of the ones around here where everyone left. But that wouldn't be a house that Red would live in with a tree growing up through the middle of it. But they, yeah, it was. There seemed to be a better way to do that, but it's network TV.
Yeah,
it's all schedule and money.
Well, yeah, it's like that first episode had a lot of like big explosions and action that was really cool. Then we've seen a lot of digital explosions and stuff that's been kind of disappointing. But yeah, it's they tried.
Yeah,
there's better ways to do it, but whatever. I don't know. The thing is like. There's better ways to do it, but maybe there's at the time that just wasn't the time to do it. Wasn't you just couldn't do it as good? But like it's just I don't know. It's like the sound was like stock sound, and then like the fireball just seemed to be like, whatever plug-in they had in their software, where it's just so you just put it in there, so there's like not even like customized to it. It's just like, and then like explosion happens, but like the grass doesn't move and the trees are fine. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they do what they can. They had a day or something.
Yeah.
I've seen the guys. I watched the guys that did they remember the blocky Dune force shields from the '84 Dune.
Yeah.
And they did that with the new Dune. They're like, what if we recreated the blocky force fields?
Yeah.
And they did it, and they talked about how long it took, and these were like 7-second shots. And oh yeah, I worked on this a week to get, because I guess it's really hard to get that to look anything right.
Well, the one guy did it. He kind of had like a 3D program. And he like tracked the motion in the shot, and it was a lot easier for him. The other guy did it in like 2D and just like every frame altering the box for every frame, which basically resulted with like, okay, this is every frame requires about like 250 adjustments, which basically means like you're spending 10 minutes on a frame and you got to go through 7,000 frames.
Yeah.
I've done that crap before. It's ridiculous.
I think it was easier to do it in the 80s. Because they described what they did. It's like, yeah, all those like electrical effects, they just scratched the film with a razor blade. You know, it was like, oh, okay.
I
It
mean,
was
yeah,
cool, though. I kind of
yeah.
liked it. I appreciated it. It's like, yeah. Because
But
I'm a
I just
movie fan, so.
I just feel like like this, like that one helicopter that blew up. It's just like, who put that in the edit and went, "This is okay." It's
Yeah.
like no, cut around it, make it shorter. Like we heard the explosion, cut away as fast as possible.
You just gotta rely on the actors to look at stuff. You know.
Yeah.
You
That's where your money's going, man. Rely on them.
Yeah, you're paying them. They're professional actors. Make them look surprised, because it's a lot easier to do 2,000 takes than it is to, like, people are like, yeah, I remember that episode. That's the one with the bad, like, we still remember the bad CGI helicopter explosion 4 episodes ago. It's like, yeah, it's don't do that. Like I said, you could have done like the house burning down through a tinted window in a car, which gives you, I imagine, a lot more flexibility because it blurs out a lot of the details. It's like, that would have been cool.
Mm-hmm. And like just Red tearing up, putting on sunglasses.
Yeah.
And then just trying to read emotion on his face while everything's burning down in the background. It's like, wasn't that your past? Yep.
But I mean, these things are done so fast. It's like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, they're literally shooting them in like a week. So
yeah, they don't have time for all that art.
And this didn't feel like necessarily like an episode that like, all right, this episode needs a lot of attention. This just seemed like, okay, this is our bog standard episode.
Yep. This is a Product X episode. It's all moved through dialogue, and and Red just steals the scene every time he's on. So, and the Cuba stuff was kind of cool. So,
yeah,
they definitely do the costuming, and like all the actors on this are good. There's not like bad actors in this, so that stuff's really good. Especially the.
No, I mean like they're doing the drama right.
Yeah.
Some of the specifics can be a bit annoying, and then like. Yeah, and some of these things, they're just a bit too ambitious, where it's like, yeah, let's blow this up. Let's have this shootout. It's like, cut that out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to, like, watch an episode 24. Like, what's the most bombastic episode 24? And did it have, like, as many bad things as this had?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure what 24. I think 24 probably had huge budgets.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It wasn't 24 funded by the CIA in part. I'm making that up. I don't know.
Yeah.
That always seemed like after 9/11, it's like, yeah, this is how we're going to get everyone on board.
Yeah. Get Jack Bauer on the job.
We're going to have
there's literally politicians that would mention like, what would Jack Bauer do in this situation because it thought it'd make him look cool. It's like, I don't know, he's a fictional character, so torture works in that universe.
Yeah, people always tell you the truth when you torture them in that universe. How do you get the truth out of someone? Nerve induction. Because no one would ever be trained to deceive you. That never happened. I remember, what did 24... There was like all kinds of massive product placement, because I know like the Chevy Suburban went from almost an inert product because of its cost, because like the government has a lot of Suburbans. There's many reasons why. Is one, they're so huge you can up armor them and put giant engines in them, and the government doesn't care. That's just, but yeah, they like revived the Suburban as like the anti-terrorist vehicle. And they boosted the sales on that like crazy. And I know there were sunglasses and knives that were popularized through that show.
Yeah, and there was a couple seasons that were sponsored by Ford, where it was like the first episode would be presented without commercials, and it was just like sponsored by Ford. And then all the good guys had Fords, and then all the bad guys had like decal-less Hondas and BMWs.
Yeah. Something foreign and alien. Yeah, I know 24 was like just a propaganda clearinghouse.
Yeah,
that influenced a lot of people.
Yeah, I remember that show being like a bit more expensive, but maybe they just did like very specific stuff that was easier to do. Just like, You know, we're like, we got to blow up a house in Bethesda, Maryland. It's like, well, that's not happening. Where 24 is like, we're going to have a shootout in a quarry. It's like, we can do that.
Where do we go to Washington to have shootouts? In the famous Washington rock quarry. Like all these giant marble buildings. Where do you think we got the stone? First and only time I shot a 50 caliber rifle was in a rock quarry. Safely shoot one in Indiana. Kill a family of 3 5 miles away or something.
Yeah. There's a weird thing in the, I guess it's not a weird thing, but like in the military, they have various ranges. You got your tank range, you got your grenade range, but like, and then when we go to a range to do qualification, there's always a thing about like certain ranges are rated for machine guns or not. And so not every range that you practice on is machine gun rated. And I remember we went to one up in Minnesota and it was machine gun rated. So if we wanted to, we could whip out some of the saws and 249 Bravos and have fun with those if we wanted to. But I don't know the way that shoot went, like we barely got through anything at all. So
yeah.
Because normally, like we used to go to a range that was like literally like a half hour away from our station.
Yeah.
And we'd leave at like 4 a.m.
Of course.
And, you know, get everything done. And then like basically we'd be there for like 4 days. And by the end of the second day, we're done with everything. And this time we left at like 9 a.m. to take a 4-hour drive to Minnesota to a range we'd never been at to then set it up. And it was like, by day 3, we started the range of the practice for going through qualification. And yeah, they didn't even finish it. Huh. They just had it. All right, who qualified expert? And it's like, technically everybody who's qualified expert can be forgiven like for a year. Like it's like, we didn't need to rate you for this year. So everybody was rated expert didn't get to shoot.
Sounds like there was some logistical problems there.
Yeah. I mean, it was different. It was different people running it, and I guess I don't know. It's always the thing with the military is that like when you do good, you're like, oh, good, we're gonna be treated like adults, and then something happens like, oh yeah, we never should have been treated like adults.
You just slip the leash a little bit. They go buck wild.
I don't know, it's also just raining the whole time too, which is fun to shoot in. So,
oh yeah,
just laying down in a puddle,
wet and it's loud.
Yep. And I have glasses, so that's extra special.
Oh yeah, it makes it fun.
But we have rain gear, so it's fine. And it's it's just practice, so it's not like we actually have to do anything dangerous.
Yeah, you're not like firing a rocket or something.
No.
Wild rocket.
Yeah, I never got to do that. It's in the manual that we're supposed to be trained on how to do it, but of course it's like, why train reservists? Why? I mean, that's going to cost like literally $500,000 a day training to train people to fire a rocket launcher they're never going to use. So it's like, let's just not do it.
Yeah, let's skip that.
I don't know, so there's a thing like I barely know about, but like, if you get deployed from your reserve unit, like you don't just like on a plane next day you're there. Like they have like basically like deployment training.
Yeah.
And so like if they need you to know how to shoot a rocket, that's probably where they're going to train you.
Yeah, because what do you guys have? You have like that MT4 anti-personnel rocket or something?
Last time I knew we had AT4 because that's just
AT4, okay.
Because that's anti-tank AT.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what they have now because like you always see like the law rocket, but a law rocket isn't actually meant for a tank. That's like a light armored weapon. Like that's what it's meant for shooting like other trucks.
Yeah.
It's the AT4 will actually like break tank vehicles and stuff like that. But I'm not even sure what they have now. So because like I was never trained on anything.
Well, I like how Army has no, not the Marines, but the Army. They brought in the Carl Gustav. You ever seen those?
Oh, I forget, what is
It's
that?
the recoilless, shoulder fired. It's like a bullet going off. It's
Oh.
not like a rocket with that propels. It's just like because it's open at both ends. You put the giant round in and you fire it, and it's like a gunshot, but it's like as big around as your fist. So there's no guidance or anything. It's just directly like you sight it and shoot it. But the problem with training with those is they're so powerful they can give you a concussion. It's just it's recoilless, so you're not holding back against anything. But it's like a giant bullet going off next to your head.
Yeah.
They're wildly effective. They're very effective, but they are because as soon as he shoots it, you see it hit something. It's like boom, and it tank explodes or whatever. It's like, oh, okay. But
But
they don't
yeah,
have anything that alerts or sends a signal or anything. It's just like line of sight.
and we got those. Oh man, what are those? It's a weird. The javelins. I've seen those. Like we have those. They use them, but I've never actually. I never practiced.
Those are the ones that
with
like have a bunch of styrofoam around them to cut
Yeah.
weight.
Uh huh.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
It's like it's a styrofoam, a computer stuck into a styrofoam thing that holds onto a missile.
and then the missile flies up in the air.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah, yeah.
miss?
Because you're not aiming it at the tank. It's like when you hold it like this to stare at the tank, the thing's on your shoulder. It's pointing up because
Yeah.
it fires all the way up, acquires the signal, and then hits down on the target where the armor's the weakest, and also where all the guys are. So
We just gave like what did we give? Like 9,000 of those to the Ukrainians. And now it sounds like we'll talk about it on the next show. But yeah, they're just like passing them out like here. Take it. And I guess they're working. I've seen videos where it's like, oh wow. But that's for the next podcast.
Yeah, we'll have that. Yeah, that's it. Anyways, for a second show, we have The Mentalist. Season 2, Episode 7, Red Bulls. Original date, November 12th, 2009, CBS Thursday. Patrick and the rest of the CBI team is forced to work together with Patrick's nemesis in the office, Sam Bosco, in order to find a kidnapping victim. Showrunner Bruno Heller, written by Tom Zettiori, and directed by David Barrett. How would you say that name?
Like you did.
Okay.
Because that has got too many letters and consonants in the wrong place.
Yeah, if I would have been like extra, I think it's meant to be like Centauri, but like if you were through an extra special like European on it, it'd be Zettiori.
Yeah. It had a lot of like sounds and fricatives that we don't use in English to pronounce it.
Oh man, we had a guy at the schoolhouse. His name was Washashok. So imagine a piece of lightning being wash a shock.
Oh, okay.
But it started with W, it ended with K, but man, there was like J's and Z's in there. What's your name, man? Washashok. Okay, whatever, dude.
Yeah, we got a lot of people around here that are Polish ancestry. Oh yeah, there's some wild names when I look down the sheet.
Mm-hmm.
When, if we got to do stuff at work where you assign people, it's like I didn't know that was his last name. Why is every letter in the alphabet present here? They actually have a guy from Poland who's one of our bosses. It's like, how do you say this? And he'll say it that way, and the guy's like, that's not how I say my name. He's like, no, that's how you say it in Polish. He goes, yeah, I don't know that language. It's like, well, look at your name. It's a Polish name. He goes, yeah, I know, but that's not how I say it. Yeah, so they'll always have a different pronunciation.
I always like Brett Favre. It's not actually Brett Favre. Because the R comes after the V. It'd be Favre.
Oh, okay.
But everyone calls him Brett Favre, so he's Brett Favre.
What I've learned around here with the Polish guys, if there's a CK or a CZ, you pronounce that like ch, like CH.
Yeah.
Because if you try to say it any other way, it'll sound tortured. You just make a ch sound. It's like, oh, okay.
And then like actually kind of the recent example is like in F1 there's Daniel Ricciardo. Mm-hmm. If you actually look at his name, there's like two eyes on it, so it's like Ricciardo. Yeah. And when he first got in there, like the announcers would be like really pronunciatory with it, and like it's Ricciardo, and it's like it's okay, it's Riccardo, because I guess his dad's Italian, so like in Italy he'd be Ricciardo, but like in Australia they're Riccardo.
Or it's like the people with like Spanish names here will be like, my name is Marietta Enhosa. They'll like throw a sound on. I was like, okay, Mary Enhosa, got it. No, Enhosa. It's like, I don't make that sound. Sorry, I don't speak Spanish.
I'm not
And
trying to be insensitive.
I'm not trying to be insensitive, but that's not a sound that we make in the English language. And just ask any Asian person about R, and you'll encounter the same thing. It's like they don't have that sound, they don't make that sound, so they are going to always pronounce that as L. So if your name's
I mean,
Rick,
you can get there, but it's
yeah, why? I'm not going to function in Spanish at any point in my life unless history gets really weird, which it may. Who knows?
We start out, there's like a guy in a cart and he looks homeless, but it's like, that's suspicious, but he's not. And there's black cars rolling in. Turns out it's CBI and they're taking a house. Apparently there's an abduction and this is Bosco's team. And then they raid the house and like Jane and the crew are in there and there's like a mummified corpse wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, it's a really weird scene to start the show. And
Yeah, because there's
pointing guns at everyone.
Yeah, and there's no lights in the house, so everybody's lit up by the lights on the end of the guns. But so yeah, it ends up being played for humor.
Yeah.
And you come back from credits, and the dilemma is Mia Westlake, who's like she's rich somehow and she's been kidnapped. Because she's just like the heiress of some like oil and lumber fortune or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then why Lisbon's team was there is because someone reported a corpse to the house, and then they talk about like budget cuts, and so they were just sitting on the corpse waiting for like a coroner to arrive.
Yeah.
So they didn't have anybody else to watch it, so they did it. So that's why that's their explanation for why they're there, but it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a fun opening. It's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
And then the dead body belongs to Colin Hamer, who's dead under similar circumstances like 4 years ago. Kidnapping, money involved. This is where they make Bosco's team and Lisbon's team have to work together. Hicks is the guy that gets added to Lisbon's team. Yeah, we have Bosco, Lisbon, and Jane interview the family of the kidnap victim.
Yeah.
It's Verona is the sister of Mia.
And she admits right away, she's like, I shouldn't be the one handling this. I'm the fucked up druggy sister. Like, Mia was the good sister. I'm the one whose life is a mess. And then her husband's like a total creep.
Yeah, he's immediately suspicious. So it's so because he's too suspicious, it's like, well, he's obviously not involved because he's too suspicious.
Just an ass, but I like Jane's comment. It's like, how long have you had money? It's like, oh yeah, that's where we find out it's like oil and lumber. It's like old money, and he's like, oh, couldn't tell from the decorations. Like he's immediately like saying nasty stuff. Nouveau riche, I see.
Yeah, he didn't immediately say someone's having an affair. He's just like just
commenting on tacky decor.
Yeah, you can do better than this, And there's a weird thing where like there's a kid around and like they're like angry that the kid got out.
Yeah, he should be back in his pen. She's yelling at her nanny. Or white lady nanny, which is like, oh, that's immediately suspicious in California.
Also, there's a lawyer there.
Yep.
And then also the ransom demand comes in. There's a video where like the Mia's like with like a current paper and she's saying stuff, and they pick up on a hand tattoo, but Bosco picks up on it and he says like it's Mexican mafia, which I thought was going to be a misdirect because the Bosco's the one that picks up on it. It's like so his clue is not going to pan out, is it?
Yeah.
Which it ends up being a misdirect, but only kind of. But yeah, we'll get into that. Well, it's a misdirect because like the people doing this aren't the Mexican mafia, but they were influenced by them, so it's why they would make it look like them. And also they just learn from, because apparently kidnapping is more lucrative than drug dealing. So
Yeah. Well, in Mexico it is maybe, but not here.
yeah. Jane pressures Verona and her husband, and then it like kind of turns into like cryptic advice where he's like, it's like, no, I mean, like, he's like negging them again, but he's like, no, you need to be present for this moment, because like somebody's gonna die and you need to be here when that happens, essentially.
Yeah.
So essentially he's like trying to help them from his own experience. It's like,
Yeah, Jane's giving out human advice. It's like, yeah, this is what some people should do. It's like, I've seen people do this, and this is, I'm not like 100% bought in on it, but I know what I've seen, you know.
Then but he also like he like insults the husband again, and go outside where Bosco is talking with Lisbon, and Jane's there too, and then the husband comes out and he wants Jane off the case for being rude, and Bosco ends up defending Jane, which is just kind of fun for a moment.
Well, because the guy threatens Bosco. He's like, well, I'll have you writing parking tickets. And Bosco's like, oh, yeah? Oh, really? Go ahead and do that then.
Yeah. I'm one call and you're giving out parking tickets. Like, he's like, go ahead and make your call. Because this is an instance where like these people have money, but like they don't have like power or know people or what to do with it or make things happen. Yeah. So they don't have that one person they can call.
Yeah, they don't like own a senator in addition to having a bunch of money.
Yeah.
They're just like third generation crackheads type rich. Well, at least the sister and the husband are. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you never get to Mia's story, but she's supposedly the one that has it all together. But
yeah.
Then we come back to a scene where the other team are working, and Hicks keeps calling Rigsby Bert to demean him. And then Cho reveals that Bosco's team calls them Bert and Ernie. And Rigsby's like, it doesn't bother you? And Cho's like, no, Ernie's the clever, handsome one.
Yeah. Yeah, not just deadpan delivery.
Yeah.
The Cho delivery. Like, oh, of course not. Are you stupid? Ernie's the slick, smart one. Handsome, smart one, yeah.
Lisbon talks with a cop that was on the Collin case that was back in San Francisco, and he points at a woman and so it might have been an inside job. Well, that's a weird. It somehow might have got changed to midget. Okay, okay. Let's change that. I'll never look at these notes again, but we'll just change that. Yeah, it's like drug dealers in Oakland abandoned houses.
Yeah.
And so this it doesn't make any sense at all, because CBI is in Sacramento, and they're going down to Oakland, and they're just like jumping back and forth like nothing, like it's like a 30-minute car trip,
5 hours apart.
So this is the only time, like, in an episode where I kind of picked up on the geography, is like, that's too quick. Because sometimes they'll have, like, okay, we're going to do this case and we got to, like, do our work remotely, and they'll have that be a point in the show. This time they just, like, cut between the office and wherever the action's supposed to happen. They just don't care about the logistics of it.
Yeah, because one thing that's cool about this show is, like, half the cases happen with like the woodsy hill people of Northern California, which is more like Kentucky than California.
Yeah.
Except there's like giant, beautiful trees and stuff like until they burn down. But yeah, it's like, yeah, this show, sometimes the geography is like, that's a massive state. You can literally drive across 3 states in some cases and not make it from one end of California to the other. It's like, it's a huge place. But
I guess maybe I should look up real quick. Actually make sure on that. How far is it from Sacramento to?
Well, I just know our sister lived outside of Sacramento, and I was like, "Oh, you ever been down to wherever?" And she's like, "No, that's like hours and hours away." Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess it would be.
Well, I know the drive from San Francisco to like LA is like a 6-hour drive.
Yeah. Yeah, but in some people's minds, those two cities like butt up against each other. And with the number of people that live there, eventually that might be the case, but got a long way to go. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm wrong. It's only an hour and 38-minute trip, so that stuff is possible.
Yeah, that's like as the crow flies though. But then you throw in their traffic, and it's like, yeah, it's a 5 hour trip.
Um, okay, but it's not the 5 hour thing I was expecting it to be. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, where are my notes? Jane interviews the nanny. That's all. That's the only note I have.
Yeah.
I guess
The only thing suspicious about her, she's a white nanny in California, and I'm not being just a racist jerk there. That is really unusual.
Yeah.
So that's why it stood out to me. And when she turned out later, oh, okay, yeah, this is why.
But yeah, she's. The only thing I have here is that they trip basically like it seems like that. What's her name? Verona, like isn't raising her kid because she doesn't feel like a mother, and so she basically is just trying to forget about the kid and she's letting the nanny raise her. So that's just kind of a sad thing. And then also she's just hooked on drugs, so it's that's something I can do. Drugs.
Yeah, it just makes it all. It puts it all at a comfortable distance.
And then Bosco takes Jane to an interview with like dangerous drug dealers.
The Mexican mafia guys, surrogates, supposedly.
Bosco makes it dangerous, but it turns out the guy he's like, kind of like being confrontational with is his informant. It's Raul.
Yeah.
And Raul says like that the whole Mex Mafia thing might be a misdirect, and then he makes Bosco punch him so he looks good in front of the other gang guys.
Yeah, because they cuff him because the guy like pokes Jane in the chest with because Jane's of course doing his Jane stuff, like just trying to get in people's heads, and this guy just like pokes him in the chest, like I don't need to hear from you, and Bosco immediately puts him in an arm bar. Puts his cuffs on him, is like, that's assaulting an officer. This guy's like, come on, man. And Bosco's shoving him, and they're being real violent. And then as they're walking to the car out of earshot of the gang, Jane's like, so how long have you been an informant for Bosco? Because he picks up right away that these guys are playing a game.
Yeah.
And this guy's immediately like, oh, man. But yeah, so Bosco has to like punch him hard in the face to make it look like that's why they're letting him go. Which is like, that's always just pure TV. Take a shot like that to the face, like you'd be missing teeth. And Bosco would be grabbing his hand like, oh. But it's a TV punch.
Yeah.
So.
And this whole thing was also supposed to be like, this is Bosco trying to intimidate Jane, which he was intimidated, but like once he's just in a situation, Jane just kind of like gets outside of himself and starts playing with everybody's mind. So it's like, now I'm in the zone.
Yeah, once Jane starts playing the angles, that's like his like lucky coin he rubs or whatever that keeps him from totally freaking out.
Yeah.
Jane is not a people person. He is like a mildly something. There's something about him that like, oh, he's super intuitive, but he doesn't really like people.
Well, there's also the stuff like, where he's like, he'll initiate the confrontation, make them act, and then he's like, all right, they have guns now, and so he starts running away. Like, get out your guns.
Yeah, I like that about Jane. It's like, I don't have a gun. Why is everyone pointing guns? And then he shoots someone, like the season finale. It's like, oh, okay.
Van Pelt, Rigsby, and Hicks interview people at an apartment complex. Van Pelt gets shot by some lady.
Yeah.
And there's a whole thing beforehand where Van Pelt's trying to tell Rigsby to wear a vest, like like we don't know what's gonna happen, and then Hicks is like needs to go get extra mags or whatever, and so they're having a pissing contest.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you need to get more mags, and, oh yeah, I need to wear a vest. But yeah, she just takes the shots in the bolt in the Kevlar vest, so she's okay. She just gets like broken ribs or whatever. Oh, this lady that's like runs away.
Soccer mom.
Yeah, she's like a badass. Like she like a Iraq veteran or something.
She's just like fully willing to like, I don't know who he is. And then Grace was like wanting to ask a follow-up question and knocks on her door, and she's just gonna empty a pistol into Grace. Like, wow, that's a quick jump from.
Yeah, and then she just jumps from like a 3-story window into some garbage. She's like running away and using tactics on the FBI agents chasing after her. It's like she's like kind of a badass, but then ends up like she kind of gets the drop on Hicks, and then Rigsby comes up behind her to shoots her dead. So that's the end of
like 3 times. And,
yeah.
you know, it's a really violent shooting, and yeah, then Hicks and Rigsby kind of bond over. You know, it's like, oh, I'm glad you shot a woman in the back. Yeah, you're one of us now.
You're no longer Bert. Yeah. Although she had a cool Diane Zaransky is the name, and she was involved with the Colin kidnapping.
Yeah, what was her street name?
Deezer.
Deezer, yeah, because you were thinking Deezer's like some dude who runs the Crazy Hill gang.
Yeah,
Deezer's gonna be a problem, and then she was. It's like I said, she looked like a soccer mom until she became an assassin. Again, that's like criminals, like just criminals that dangerous don't exist. I mean, they do, but you know who they are. No one suddenly like turns on a coin like, yeah, I'm gonna just empty a magazine into a cop.
Yeah,
and we're gonna get away with this. Is like, no, that doesn't happen.
And crime doesn't seem to be paying for her because she seems to have like a 1-room apartment in Oakland in a bad part of town.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. Deezer might have some other problems. She might be.
Oh, maybe she just all the money's in the bank account and she's just living low. It's like, you can't pull out that money yet; they'll catch you.
Yeah, maybe she's smart. That's why she decided to unload on a cop in the middle of a city. Like, yeah, you're gonna get away. Not only that, you're gonna kill the 2 other cops. And no one's gonna show up.
They accidentally crossed her kryptonite, asking her 2 questions.
Yep, you stepped on the mine now. It's exciting for TV.
Yeah. Bosco and Jane run a scheme with the money where they're like pretending to like argue at each other, and then they plant a camera to see who does anything with the money. Because they tell everybody like, all right, we're gonna put a tracking device on the money. So because in the last case, basically the money got paid out and the person was just like dead immediately.
Yeah. Because that's what the Crazy Hill gang does. Based on how Deezer acts, it's like, yeah, okay, I can see these guys. Like, thanks for the money, just shoot the guy in the back of the head. Because then all the investigation stops at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, well, he's dead. They got away with it.
Yeah, case closed. They're dead.
Yeah.
That murder has a statute of limitations, right?
Yeah. Our bond doesn't pay out once the victim's dead. We're going back to look at these stolen cars. Sorry about your family.
And then Jane funnily just sicks Verona on the lawyer. He's like, she did.
Yeah. This poor drug-addled woman. It's like, she betrayed your family. And he put a camera, like he hid a camera in the room when him and Bosco were pretending to fight.
Yeah.
And they see the nanny goes and takes the tracking device out of the suitcase full of money.
And then she like calls the gang or whatever, and then they catch her and take her phone away and trace the call, and they raid the house and get Mia out, and that's case closed there. So.
Yeah, they raid the house full of brutal kidnappers with vests and handguns. And they throw in a flashbang, and Mia comes out alive. It's like, yeah, I don't think that's going to go down based on the Bill gang's usual tactics. They just empty a magazine into her and go down fighting, But they seem to pull a bunch of guys out, so, okay.
Oh, that flashbang it threw in there was impressive because it went off like 500 times.
Yeah, it was like, louder. I was like, wow, is that some new shit?
That would freak me out.
Yeah. Also shatter every window in the house.
I don't care about that.
Yeah.
They're running out of apparently abandoned houses in Oakland.
Steal drugs out of.
Yeah.
And to stash corpses.
I don't know, it was 2008, so there's probably...
Oh, yeah, that was probably yeah. Because they do talk about the economy once.
Yeah.
They mention like, yeah, why are they're dealing drugs out of abandoned houses? Like, well, you know what the housing market is, because that would be the apex of the what was the last thing that destroyed our economy? Subprime mortgage.
Yeah. Nowadays it would just be an abandoned house, but somebody would own it because it's like, Oh, that house is falling apart. Like, what's that worth? Like 10 grand? It's like, that's worth $3.7
Yeah.
million.
Yeah, worth like $1 million without a roof on it. It's like, oh, okay, so our economy really is worthless now.
Yeah.
Next, it'll be like sidewalks,
And it's owned by like some weird company that does estate evaluations
with a sinister name, like dark money financing.
Bicom.
Omni Consumer Products. Omni Mortgage Products. Can't get sued for that one.
Yeah, so I think I'm missing like Lisbon stuff in here. Like Lisbon and Bosco kind of have exchanges throughout this episode where Lisbon's like, I kind of recognize you again, Bosco. You're not the douche you've been like recently. Because they talk about like Van Pelt got shot when Hicks and Rigsby were arguing, so they're like, yeah, we need to coalesce this team better and stop arguing with each other. And sort of, not necessarily out of kindness, Bosco gives Jane a summary of the Red case since they've been working on it, but then Jane just kind of demands the full case. It's like, I need all the details. And they both kind of just call each other assholes and leave.
Yeah. Well, Bosco and Lisbon do drink tequila. It's
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Tradition they have.
Yeah, it was their San Francisco case days. Yep. Yeah, I didn't see pizza out this time, but yeah, because they closed 2 cases, right? You know, they solved the kidnapping case, but they also solved the murder case.
Yeah. And Lisbon's team and Bosco's team, like I said, they get to bond over shooting a woman in the back. Just, you blew those implants right out of her chest. Yeah, I did, didn't I?
High five, freeze frame over the dead body.
Yeah. It's like, like one of those brutal, like original Blade Runner killings. You know? Like, you got her. Those explosive bullets.
You know, she only feels pain the entire time.
Yeah.
Oh, just the entire time. Yeah. Okay, we're good then. So for our third show, we have Miami Vice Season 2, Episode 7, Junk Love.
Yep.
It's
a weird episode.
Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of I ended up looking at the rating for these episodes because I've been kind of like, you know, so far this season really hasn't been that good.
Yeah, it hasn't took off. Yeah.
We have 1 good episode, 2 bad episodes, including this one, and then 4 just like okay episodes. But so this one was rated the lowest.
Yeah.
But I think this one's better than last week's. But
yeah, this one was probably better.
But this one's also just weird.
Well, this one has a problem where it starts out like, oh, what's this? You know,
yeah.
It's like, oh, we got this weird, whorehouse, whatever it is,
brothel.
Yeah.
That's like a hotel. It's like, oh, that's kind of the weird thing. Like I always forget. Like this place has multi stories. It's in Miami. Like, shouldn't this be like really expensive real estate? But also, we learned that half the stuff they shot in was just like buildings next to the beach that were just practically condemned because of what the sea does to buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, just don't go on the second story because the sea salts eroded the concrete structure so much that
Yeah, sorry, we got women walking around in lingerie. It looks like some sort of hotel, but ends up being like a brothel. Also, you meet the guy, Ivory Jones. It's Miles Davis.
it was like, oh, that's Miles Davis. Wow, I forgot he was in this.
He's just a famous trumpet or jazz musician, right?
Yep.
I think this is his only acting role because I went to look up his Internet Movie Database and he's only listed as actor, but it's like this is an acting role and everything else is like a concert film as himself. So I think this is his only acting role.
Yeah, probably. There's a lot of one-offs in Miami Vice.
I don't know. It's like I know the name Miles Davis, but I don't actually know like why I should know it. Do you have any like touchstones of Miles Davis?
Well, I know he's a famous musician who did he did a lot of stuff. I can't recall off the top of my head.
Okay.
trying to think of what he is most famous for, and I mean, he's just. I know he had a band that like a lot of their arrangements and stuff are like them. If you heard it, you'd know it.
Yeah.
It was also he was very famous for that. Because I think he has. I think like for jazz, he has like the best-selling album ever. I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
But I know I'm pretty sure like he had the best-selling like, you know, people that are into jazz that are into like really obscure stuff. I know that gets into like obscura because I know people that are into jazz. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I know like Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis and a few other like jazz things, but I think he was like conventionally considered one of the most successful, like just a straight up jazz blues type thing.
Okay.
I recognized him right away. It's like, oh wow. So I know he died like almost 30 years ago now, but
yeah. Some John got bit and they threw the lady into a mirror.
yeah.
It's a mysterious lady who's probably being sex trafficked. And I wrote that down, but she's actually not. She's just using this to run away from, somebody will reveal that is. And then we cut to credits. We come back and Switek shows up with a tape about something. I'm not sure. I must have missed something. Or if this is like some context to a future episode. And Castillo's like, forget about that. We're working on this case. And then this is where Castillo's talking about Ivory Jones. He used to like marry GIs to Vietnamese women to bring them into the country to work in brothels.
Yeah. Ivory Jones is a dark character. He's he is like a pimp. But he's not like a hateful guy. He's just like, hey, this is just money. It's all money, baby.
Yeah.
He's kind of one of those guys.
Well, he has like this very raspy voice. He just has like, even though his like character isn't really that, his character has a lot of backstory, but he doesn't get a whole lot to do. But he just, when he talks, it sounds like history is coming out. Like you just imagine like, oh, this guy's lived a life.
Like he's got like a necklace for
the shark tooth on it. Yeah, he's got a really good presence, even though like the character itself probably isn't that like necessarily that great. And they end up like talking about Silva and Berto. They're like the big drug cartel they're working on. And the lady is Rosella, and she's hooked on drugs and is working for the brothel to escape Silva. Berto shows up at the hospital after Crockett and Tubbs leave, and he gives her drugs.
Yeah,
because
talk about the monkey. It's like Tubbs hates this girl. Tubbs is like, yeah, she's just a junkie. She's just going to be fighting the monkey, and it's always that and that. And then Crockett's kind of taken with her for some reason. It's like, no, I think I can work with her. I think, but for some reason, like Tubbs is like, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like have a dilemma.
At one point. Yeah. It's like, you just got to leave this junkie alone. It's not going to help us.
Well, it almost like implies history for Crockett. It's like, did he get hooked on drugs at some point, and like he knows what she's going through? Is that why he's sympathizing or something? Like he got too deep in cover, and we just haven't seen that part. There's a team meeting where they discuss the Rosella case. That's where they kind of hash out things, because like Crockett's trying to stick up for Rosella. It's like, we can work with her. I think she wants to get out of this. Because she ends up like going back to Silva's place, but that isn't necessarily explained. She's just like in lingerie in his house.
Yeah.
That's kind of the bad part of this episode. Just things just happen. It's like, oh, okay, we're here now. Okay.
And Silva's also a lunatic. Like he's clearly a disturbed person. Like supposedly he's this ferocious drug dealer, and he is, because he will kill everyone. Which plays a part in this later, but he's also like crazy. Like he's not rational. And I don't know if a lot of drug dealers are. Some of them.
At least not the ones portrayed in the 80s. Like I remember that book, Dreamland, which is about like Black Tower heroin, like over the last like 20 years, and like like that gang is like way different than any gang that's portrayed in this era. Because
Oh
like
yeah, they're like the low key gang.
yeah, they're like non-violent.
Yeah, you can rob me. We don't want police problems.
Yeah. It's like yeah. If you're shooting other drug dealers as competition, all it does is draw attention. Like they
Yeah.
did things like they'd leave like medical pamphlets with their customers in case somebody would like OD. It's like, no, we need to keep this thing like if somebody ODs, call the ambulance. Here's instructions and stuff. It's like your nice neighborly drug dealer, black tar drug dealer.
Yeah, because we don't want you to die because we can't get money out of a corpse. What
And
has
like
to happen?
and they'd like work like odd cities, like they weren't like working major cities. They work like the third major city in a state or something. It's like, yeah, you make just as much money.
Yeah, they're like the biggest heroin dealers in like Eureka, Illinois, or something. It's always never Chicago. It's like no,
Yeah.
it's always some other place.
But yeah, I mean, the exciting TV drug dealers are the ones with guns and drugs and the girls, and they're running
Yeah, they're all
parties.
Scarface.
Yeah.
They're all some form of Tony Montana.
There's an interesting scene where Castillo is checking out Ivory Jones. Like they're letting him out of the
Yeah, he
jail.
tells the duty clerk to take a hike,
Yeah.
and he's handing him his possessions back, and they're making a deal through bulletproof glass. Like, weird, or they're passing things through the drawer.
Because they know each other back when he was his CIA slash or
Yeah, DEA slash CIA slash special forces slash whatever. Catch all.
The Omni days when everything happened.
What were you and what did you do in law enforcement overseas in Vietnam? I was a Navy SEAL, DEA, CIA assassin slash smuggler. Like, wow, that's a lot of hats to wear. That's like, oh yeah, it's a lot of training, but you can do it. Now everything's all specialized. Or we don't care about drugs. It's like, I'm starting to convince myself more and more that the whole Afghan occupation just became a giant drug operation for reasons that, it's like, okay. But anyway, back to Miami Vice. I don't want to go down these rabbit holes.
We have another podcast for that.
Yeah, we have another podcast, focused podcast. So yeah, so anyway, Ivory Jones is going to help Crockett and Tubbs get close to Silva, because Silva loves competition of any kind, and he also loves to kill people that beat him, because you're going to beat Silva so many times.
Yeah, is this where he gives like the case to Roberto? He's like, yeah, here's your money. He just throws it in, and he's like, ends up being a bomb.
Yeah, it just blows the boat up and.
Yeah, because it's fish filled with drugs, and then they he hands him money, but because it's only 50 grand, he's just like, that's nothing, so he doesn't even bother to check it.
Yeah,
and blows him up, which he actually seems kind of like reluctant about. It's like, man, now it's gonna end.
Yeah, because he likes that guy for psychotic reasons. Like, oh yeah, this guy's like. Yeah, he's like hitting on my girl, and I like that. I like to see that happen, and which becomes like super menacing in the last 3 seconds of the show. We'll get there.
There's an auction for a yacht. Crockett shows up and he runs the price up on the yacht because he's trying to like attract attention of.
Yeah, and even Tubbs is getting nervous. He's getting like the $400,000, and it's like he might call you for that, and Crockett's like, that's okay. That's why I got $2,000 in the bank. He's always something like that.
Yeah. He said something like, "I'm twice the voice from broke cop." Like I got the money. And Crockett and Tubbs meet with Silva, and they get invited to a party. Silva shows off all his stuff. And basically he's kind of like this like con man where it's just like how belief in himself gives him everything he wants.
Yeah. I grew up in a house with my whole family. We all lived in this tiny house, dusty, dirty house, and look at me now. And it's like, yeah, it's a great story, except you're a psychotic criminal instead of a legitimate criminal.
also this year they make it really obvious that just Rosella can't get away from the drugs despite it being the thing that's ruining her life.
Yeah.
Which that's why Tubbs doesn't like respect her. It's like, we can't stop this. Like, this is a cycle that's unstoppable. And we just learn later why it's even a worse cycle, but but nobody picks up on that really. And the actress who plays Rosella, she's like very like, she's kind of all over the place, because like sometimes like she's kind of bad at that, and then like, oh wait, this is really good. She just can't hit it all the time throughout the episode.
It has a dreamy performance quality.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I think she's trying to act high half the
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the rest of it is like her being like serious and emotional.
Yeah. Which what makes it inconsistent.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're
well play. It's like, because she probably never used drugs. They're just like, act high. Okay. I'm stoned on weed. It's like, no, narcotic high. It's like, I'm stoned on cocaine. Oh, okay, good. Just go with it. Just look pretty.
There's a fun bit where like Silva has like a server come out with a tray of Coke.
Yeah.
For Tubbs and Crockett.
Great.
And then there's just like a dog fight, like how with like all these rich people. It's like, oh, that's out of nowhere, because you see all the rich people with their dogs. It's like, oh, they're showing off their dogs. Like, oh no, they're fighting their dogs. Okay, whatever.
I do like the guy that comes out with the tray of cocaine, and of course Crockett and Tubbs are like, nah, not tonight, man. And he just turns around. He's like, okay, more for me. And then starts snorting 3 giant rails of coke off the thing, and he's like, don't tell, he's acting really strange, and it's like, oh, that's funny. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, it was good.
That
guy had 2 lines and you made it work, man. Knocked it out of the park.
Well, and it also like, oh, why wouldn't Silva become suspicious they didn't use cocaine? It's like, well, this guy's going to tell him they did because he just sucked it all up. So it kind of gets around the whole obvious thing about all these drug dealers and criminals getting busted by these cops in Miami, but it's like they're always undercover. It's like, no, that's Crockett and Tubbs, the guys who busted like the other 15 people and shot 30 people last year. We know who they are, but that never comes up in Miami Vice.
Well, I mean, Crockett does give the excuse like, no, I got my nose all bloody last night. I can't. And then Tubbs was like, I'm a vegetarian, which means nothing. It's just funny.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I like that whole scene. That was probably the best scene in the whole episode.
Yeah. Then we like Zito, or oh man, I wrote that all weird. Zito and Zwitek place a tracker on Silva's yacht.
Yeah.
They kind of come up the next morning, and where Rosella's like in the pool, and it's implied that Ivory's dead because she told him about the brothel. Because he just comes up and he has this necklace. You never actually see him die or anything, but it's just like, we've already seen him kill one person, so we don't have to show him killing the other person. And then like Rosella tells Gina and Trudy to like call off the bus because they're probably in danger. And then so Castillo, Zito, and Switek are tracking one boat, but Silva switches to another boat because he's clever, but then just like Castillo picks up on it anyways, but they can't track him anymore, but they just know he switched boats, and they call that to Crockett and Tubbs, who are like looking for drugs out by like some buoy in the ocean. And then we get like, it's a super, well, it's weird in a lot of ways, but you have like this kind of initial like boat drive by, but because these boats are so clumsy and that you see it real time trying to turn around and like aim, but then we're never actually like shooting at Crockett and Tubbs.
Yeah, they have to make like 2 passes. Let's find out. Well, first let's develop the sick part of this story is after Ivory gets killed. They're meeting at Gina and Trudy are at Ivory's house with Rosella, and Rosella basically explains like, this Silva has this trail of corpses around because of jealousy about her.
Yeah,
that's why he killed, eventually killed Ivory. He's like, you were pimping out, someone I care about. And she tells Gina and Trudy, Silva's my dad. And it's like, what? Oh my God. And you find out like, oh, this guy's been in an incestuous relationship with his daughter, and then likes to watch her like having sex. It's implied that he had cameras all over his fancy house. He likes to watch his daughter having sex with other men. which you don't know that until she tells Gina and Trudy this, and then you cut to the next day with this boat scene, and you're like, wait a minute, can we talk about this for a little bit? They don't, because we're down to literally the last minute and a half of the show at this point.
Well, yeah, they make this whole power thing where it's like he ends up like, yeah, they're cops, I should just kill them, but I'm not, to show off like, come on, like what power I have.
That's why they back up, because he switched boats because he knew a tracker was on his boat, just because he's Silva and he's crazy like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why Crockett and Tubbs are out in the ocean like, we need backups, like we don't know where he is. It's and then by the time they figure it out, it's too late. And Silva shows up has to make 2 passes on his gunboat because they couldn't bring it in.
But then he hands like a gun to Rosella and basically puts everything in her hands, like, kill me. And then like the guys are like pointing the guns at her, and he's like, no. And then she's like, goodbye, Daddy. Freeze frame with Crockett just kind of like shaking his head down.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that's the most unintentional funny way to end the episode.
And then immediately after that, it's like cuts to trailer. Whoa, okay, they just ran this right up to the wall. Like I said, an episode that had all the potential to be interesting, but just never really takes off, and then at the last 30 seconds, like, just hits the gas.
Yeah.
Because literally the time that she tells Gina and Trudy that's her dad in real life, or Silva's her father, and we have this boat scene, I think 4.5 minutes. It's the last 4.5 minutes of the show or something. It's like, yeah, wow, they really ended that weird. But there's a lot of Miami Vice episodes that end like freeze frame with someone holding a gun.
Oh yeah.
And it's never explored, very rarely. Because I was checking, like, is this a 2-parter? Because when I was like 40 minutes in, I was like, they're not resolving anything. This must be a 2-parter. And I looked like, nope. Okay.
They're not resolving anything. I guess everybody dies in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, yes.
Because I want to see, like, what's the after action report on that? It's like, well, she shot her father and then herself, and then the 2 security guys surrendered to the police officers.
Oh, these people are loco. He had a daughter and a father. Bang, bang, bang. No, this loco. I'm kind of going Borat there. I don't know how to do Mexican accents.
Yeah, well, and also don't.
I'm just reporting what I see. A judgment on my part.
And that's that. I was reminded. There's a part where he's talking about that painting. And he said, like, this is the house where I slept with my brothers and sisters, which now has a different meaning.
It's like, oh, what's this dude talking about? That's some kind of dark confession.
If you've liked what you heard, then how couldn't you?
Yeah, how couldn't you?
You can find this podcast at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect, or you can go to verhoeveneffect.com. We'll send you to the same place. Whatever platform you're listening on, you can, if it allows rating, you can rate us. You can rate us whatever you want, but the only thing we listen to is the highest rating. At verhoeveneffect.com, we have listener support, where you can support us at a monthly fee of 99 cents, 49, or $9.99. And if you support us, we'll just do more faster. You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook Verhoeven Effect. We have another podcast and a YouTube channel, American Greed Factory, on YouTube and other podcast platforms. You can both watch that show and this show live and unedited. And we also have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, this is Conlon.
This is Nathan.
Goodbye, America.